Just walk away. Just walk away, and there will be an end to the horror.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome back. This week's episode of MGTOW Chats. What are we, number 56? And it's just Lamprey and I tonight, one-on-one, doing a breakdown of a couple videos that are available on YouTube, and the links are below. They are an interview with a man named Sam Vaknin. Is that correct? Did I say that correct, Lamprey? Vaknin? Hello?
Yes.
Okay. I thought I lost you already. Oh yeah, can you guys hear us? Just give like a thumbs up if you guys can hear us. I just want to
Test check one. Check. Mic check.
testiculos. Choppy. Ah shit. Well, we're gonna barrel through it. We're gonna do basically we're gonna view a video and comment on it. We haven't done this really before, so we're gonna try it tonight and see how it goes. To do that, obviously, I downloaded the actual YouTube videos, so it won't be streaming from YouTube and from here. It'll just be playing straight off my hard drive through the OBS Studio software. So hopefully, but I have to share the screen at the same time with Lamprey, so I don't know. It'll probably just fucking end up in a train wreck. But let's try it. Let's fucking see what happens. Anyway, do you want to?
Do it.
Huh?
Let's make it happen.
Yeah, we're gonna try, man. Do you want to lead off with those two articles first? That update.
Yep. Well, go ahead. Throw the articles up.
All right, so we're gonna start the show before we get into Vaknin. We're going to start the show with an update, actually, from a earlier show we did, which I believe was titled Chicks in Cockpits. Is that what we called it? I believe it was.
Yes.
Yeah, I think it was Chicks in Cockpits. Anyway, we did a show called Chicks in Cockpits, and we were talking about different instances in recent news and in the past of women sort of taking over men's roles that were predominantly male, especially very difficult roles like pilots and sea captains, etc. And there was one article we brought up, and shit, this is like must have been about a year ago, right? One article we brought up was about
Yes, it was a year ago.
Yeah, it was about the first female officer, was it?
In the Argentinian Navy.
Yeah, the first female officer in the Argentinian Navy set sail in a submarine. She was the first woman on the submarine, first woman in a large cylindrical phallic tube with a whole bunch of men. First one to set out into the vast ocean blue, and the fucking thing disappeared. And we kind of had a little bit of a laugh about that with John the Other, actually. It was John the Other that was on that show. So here's the update, gentlemen. I'll pull up the article. I'll share the screen with you guys so you can see. So here's the first article by the Washington Post. Submarine that vanished with 44 sailors found near Argentina. Search for bodies and answers begins. Remember, this was the submarine. We mentioned this a year ago with John the Other, how ironic it was that the first female naval officer in Argentina's history, Navy's history, played a part in the disappearance of this submarine, and all hands on deck. So the story goes: as days then weeks passed with no contact from the ARA San Juan submarine, Argentines began to accept the fact that what had once been an aging staple of the nation's naval fleet had been suddenly and tragically transformed into a 60-meter-long metal tomb. But as the nation mourned the anniversary, so this submarine was like an aging staple of the nation's naval fleet. I imagine they don't have very many. You know, submarines don't come cheap, and I don't think Argentina's
No.
the wealthiest nation. So, you know, it might have been their only fucking submarine. But as the nation mourned the anniversary of the San Juan's disappearance Thursday, painful questions lingered. What horrible tragedy had befallen the submarine? And most importantly, would the craft and the bodies of the 44 sailors aboard ever be recovered? 44 sailors. If they'd been more honest, they would have said 43 men and 1 woman. But they didn't. In a bittersweet announcement Saturday...
Well, CNN did that.
Oh, did CNN do that? Okay. Oh, actually, I'll go into the CNN article next. In a bittersweet announcement Saturday, authorities said they may soon have answers to those twin mysteries. The San Juan has been found nearly 30,000 feet beneath the ocean surface in waters off the Valdez Peninsula in Argentine Patagonia. Argentine Defense Minister Oscar Aguad later said that the government lacked the proper technology to recover the submarine, adding that officials still need to determine next steps. Yeah, so let me quickly go into the CNN article. 44 crew members, family members of the Navy, hours before the wreckage was positively identified. Ooh, they got some pictures. Crying relatives. I don't see anything about women. Sure it was in there?
In the CNN one.
I'm in the CNN one now.
Towards the bottom, there's a photo of the female officer.
There she is.
Naturally, they put her. Yeah.
The only female that died gets the center stage. Meanwhile, 43 men, nobody gives a fuck. They're just down there.
Sailor 1, Sailor 2,
Exactly.
Disposable Man 3.
Yeah.
Disposable Captain 4.
And there she is. Mourn her. So that's the update, people. They found the submarine. Of course, it's too early to tell if the submarine actually went off course and sank because the male officers were too busy gangbanging the one female and they didn't pay attention. It's too early to know. So we'll have to wait and see what they come up with as far as how this female officer was responsible for this missing submarine. We'll have to wait and see. So yeah, that's just an update. I didn't pin the articles in the low bar, but it's easy to find. You guys have seen it. All right, so I'm going to stop sharing, and we'll get into what our topic is today. Now, most of our listeners probably aren't familiar with Sam Vaknin. Why don't you go ahead and introduce him and these interviews? The interviews are linked. The YouTube videos are linked if you guys want to, at some point in the future, go and watch them for yourself or find out more about Sam Vaknin. But why don't you, Lamprey, introduce this man to our viewers, our listening audience? Did I lose you?
Well, I found Sam Vaknin. Can you hear me?
I hear you now. Yeah.
You hear me?
Yes, I hear.
Okay, so all right, just make sure everyone can hear me. I found Sam's work about 10 years ago when I was going through a very rough spell with a coworker who had NPD, narcissistic personality disorder. And this was when I was 21. I didn't really know anything about personality disorders. I knew quite a bit. I had a lot of experience with people with severe personality disorders that I've never discussed with Ayam or any of our listeners before. But I had a good idea on people with schizophrenia, bipolar disorder, manic depressive, bipolar, same thing. But I've experienced this. I know how to spot people with problems. And this coworker of mine was exuberating very strange behaviors that I'd never seen before. She had this aurora about her, this type of energy, like a force field that I found quite fascinating. And we started speaking and talking, but there was something a little bit off about her, and I can't really remember because I'm going back to almost 10 years. But when she started showing these very strange behaviors, I went ahead and started Googling her weird behaviors. And every time I Googled her quirks, Sam's videos kept popping up. And I'm like, what the fuck is this? Who is this weird guy in a strange room speaking like a robot? and then his video would pop up, and then I would type in another strange quirk she would do, and again another Sam Vaknin video would pop up, and lo and behold, turned out that she had a severe personality disorder. And from there, I became a huge fan of Sam Vaknin's work. I bought his book. His book is titled Malignant Self-Love, Narcissism Revisited. And it is a great, great book for any red pillar out there, any man of MGTOW. Really, I highly, highly recommend his books and his website. So, and for the most part, this past year of me doing these live streams, I've somewhat based a lot of my my talking points off of Sam's writings. So basically, that's how I've discovered Sam Vaknin's. He calls them muses. His writings. He writes a lot of long essays and articles. And it's great that he's now doing more and more interviews. He's been quite quiet. He's been quiet for quite some time. He only puts out videos once in a blue moon, but the last 6 months he's been on quite a roll doing interviews and releasing new material, and hopefully after doing these interviews with Richard Gannon, the life coach, Spartan life coach, perhaps Sam will start doing more and more issues relating to men and women in the modern age.
Do you want to? Would you mind touching on some of the quirks that you said you had to Google that brought up Sam's videos?
That's correct. So when I started Google searching her odd traits and behaviors, all of Sam's videos kept popping up. How to spot a psychopath, how to spot a narcissist, and a lot of the things that she was displaying, his work would pop up. Go on, sorry.
What were the quirks? Because I'm curious. Because I'm not too familiar with Vaknin. I've watched a few videos you sent me. He's very well articulate man, but I don't know too much about his kind of his real basis of work, which is personality disorders, correct? And we're not really gonna go into that.
Well, actually, Sam is a Renaissance man. He knows a little about a lot. He's not as he calls it, he's not an expert. He knows a little about a lot, and I respect that a lot because even myself, I'm somewhat of a Renaissance man. I have a good bird's eye view on many different topics. Some things I know more about than others, and Sam is the same way.
Right.
He's a businessman. He's gives lectures. I think he's a teacher, a professor at the University of Macedonia where he resides. He's lived in Macedonia for quite some time now. He is originally from Israel. But his main work and his main he knows more about the Balkans more than anything. So he knows a lot about Albania, Macedonia, right. The economies of those regions, Croatia, and that's kind of where he talks mainly from. He's an intellectual in a high tower. He doesn't really he speaks the truth. A lot of people don't like that because he's brutally honest. After all, he does call it. He is classified as a narcissist himself. He was in jail for, I think, embezzlement or stock fraud.
Securities fraud.
Maybe 20 years ago.
Securities
so he was
fraud.
in jail in Israel.
Yeah.
And security fraud. And when he was released from jail, he started questioning himself and wondering, why do I have all these problems? Sam has an IQ above 180. I think his IQ is 185 or 187. He's one of the most intelligent people on this planet. And it's a lot of fun watching his videos and listening to his lectures. It's a lot of fun. I highly, highly recommend people who enjoy MGTOW related topics, and red pill philosophy to get Sam's book, which is Malignant Self-Love, Narcissism Revisited.
Yes, there's a couple more points I want to bring up for the listeners that are just basically listed on his wiki page that anybody can see. But apparently, he claimed his mother was a narcissist. When he said, this is his own words, I was borderline schizoid, but the most dominant was NPD, and that's when he came out of jail, when he found that that stuff out about himself. And there's one other thing that I thought was quite interesting. It has it listed under film appearances. It says in 2007, Vaknin appeared in the episode Egomania of the British Channel 4 documentary series Mania. 2009, he was the subject of an Australian documentary film, Psychopath, directed by Ian Walker. In the film, Vaknin underwent a psychological evaluation in which he met the criteria for psychopathy, according to the Hare psychopathy checklist, but did not meet the criteria for narcissism. I thought that was kind of interesting. But
Yep.
So now that we know about a little bit about who he is, let's get into. Well, why don't you set up what we're going to watch first?
Well, he did an interview with Richard Grannon, the Spartan Life coach. Guy has over 100 subscribers. He covers a lot of modern day women talking points about dating Western women, the problems with the society at large in the West, and I think Richard did a lot of his own research and his own work based on Sam's previous works. So eventually the two of them met, and they've been releasing videos slowly when they discussed various topics such as sex robots, the concept of capitalism, the fall of capitalism, post-capitalism. I discussed, I think, maybe 2 or 3 episodes ago about how we're moving towards a feudalistic society. I based that discussion off of Sam and Gannon's interview.
Mm-hmm.
And then the latest interview was one that was on is the future feminist? Is feminism the future?
No,
so.
is the future female? Isn't that what he said?
Future female. Sorry. Yes.
Yeah, is the future female? I mean, that there's 3 parts apparent to this video, but we're going to try and go through 2. Let me just quickly look at the comments people are making here. Mekong Farong, fraud in Israel, when in Rome. Yeah, absolutely. He also says Sam Vaknin is the Google SEO champ. I don't know what SEO champ means. But anyway, yeah, let's get into the video. I have it set up here where we can view it together. Hopefully it doesn't fucking cause everything to break down into a million pieces, but we'll see what happens. Yeah.
Does everyone hear us okay?
I think everybody can hear us. They're commenting. Sleeping Elephant's there. Slaughterhouse is there. I just made Slaughterhouse a moderator. Have fun hunting down trolls and trannies. Test the narcissist with a narc injury. Watch them have a meltdown. Okay, that's Sleeping Elephant. All right, so the video we're going to watch is titled The Future is Female. I believe I put it... Yeah, The Future is Female. I titled our video, Is the Future Female? Because the question... I'm going to spoil it. Vaknin believes it is. He believes the future is female, and he's sort of advocating this opinion. My title is the question, is the future female? And the reason is because the question itself I would answer in 2 ways. 1, yes. 2, because it is, we're all doomed. That's how I would answer the question. I don't agree a lot with a lot of what Vaknin says, but we'll get into that. But I can't disagree when he says the future is female. When I look at what's happening today, that's what I see it being pushed. Society's being engineered in that direction, okay? Which is a suicidal direction. It is not a natural direction. It's not a natural progression. All right, but anyway, let's get into the video here. Let me set it up. All right, so I'm gonna start the first one. There's we'll just start it from the beginning. Let me know that you guys can hear it, and let me know, Lamprey, if you can hear it as well. All right, here we go.
Very good.
Oh yeah, hopefully we don't get a copyright strike for this.
The current definitions of the cluster B personality disorders, would you look at deconstructing them, or do you think that maybe the way it's defined now should also be?
I think all disorders which are not medical are social.
Right.
All. They represent a mismatch between the individual and his environment, or her environment. Of course, this mismatch creates distress and unhappiness and ego dystony. This is what these patients complain about. But as we discussed yesterday, it's a consequence of cultural and societal context. The very same people would feel wonderful if they are transported to another environment in which their idiosyncrasies are assets. It is the feedback from society and the environment that makes them feel bad.
Right.
For example,
This is interesting.
narcissists and psychopaths flourished in Nazi Germany.
Yes.
They didn't feel distressed. They felt elated. They felt victorious. They felt that they are the norm. And
Can we stop it there for a second?
Yeah, sure.
This is something that I've noticed about watching a lot of his interviews. He makes these kind of offhand remarks like that as if they're fact, and it's very bizarre. Where he says narcissists and psychopaths felt at home in Nazi Germany. That's such a weird claim.
Well, it's a cultural form of psychopathy and narcissism. I think that's what he is alluding to.
Yeah, he's saying basically what he's alluding to is that Nazi Germany was a culture that nourished psychopathic and narcissistic tendencies. I don't know if I
Absolutely. And was it not? Of course.
It'd be hard. It'd be hard to prove that. Very hard to prove that. First of all,
Wouldn't it be great being a fucking white Christian guy in Nazi Germany?
Yeah,
would have been. It was probably like the greatest time ever in 1935 Nazi Germany.
but being a white Christian doesn't make you a narcissist or a psychopath.
No, but you're I understand where you're coming from, but again, he's talking in the cultural pretext of a cultural narcissism, where everyone agreed that this is what we're doing. So everyone's on the same, the same frequency, so to speak. So of course, everyone is going to be happy about what it is they're doing.
Well, what I would do at this point is if I was the interviewer, I would ask Vaknin, give me an example of a culture that isn't appealing to narcissism and psychopathy.
Asia.
Okay, how so?
Asian countries. They're more group oriented, aren't they not? More communal.
Okay.
Not there's not this malignant individualism.
Well, I mean, but Nazi Germany was very communal. It was nationalism, 100%. You know, I mean, it was like Nazi Germany was, we are for the Germanic people. We want to keep Germany a strong country. Hitler was also very, very allied with other Nordic type white races. He felt a very special bond with those because he felt there was a sort of kinship between them. I mean, that's very communal, don't you think?
Well, I think it's also competition, being competitive. Again, Western, it was the West at that time was competing with one another. When you look at countries like Asia, they're not really competing, right? The games they play, for instance, if you play games in Cambodia, for example, where I lived for quite an extensive time, it was more like games like Duck Duck Goose, not so much playing soccer. Or it's not as much as a competition like striving to be the best, where everyone is somewhat equal. It's more of a level playing field. Whereas in America, where it's you got to be number one or you're shit.
Right. I can relate to some of those differences. It's still I think it would be a very difficult claim to prove. I mean, it makes some sense again cerebrally on the level. But I think you need to scratch a little. I think it needs to be scratched a little bit deeper. Hold on, we got a few. Hold on, we got a few comments here that I'm missing out on. Who's here? Warriors in. Rico's in. Rico, good to see you, buddy. All right, we're gonna continue. We got Classic American. I don't recognize, maybe a new viewer. He says, I'm pretty new to MGTOW. About 4 months ago, found it. Changed my life, thank God. Why are there women being allowed in some MGTOW channel streams? Good question. Classic Americana, I have no idea. I have no clue. But that's why we do have moderators in here, and their number one goal is to seek out and eliminate any women, trannies, or sodomites in the chats, and dismiss them without
That's
question.
our form of psychopathy.
Yes, that is our form of psychopathy. That's our community. That is our community. All right. Now, all right. So we're gonna continue here.
So automatically, it was a fucking Argentinian. It was the Argentinian female naval officer who sunk that ship, and I don't care what anyone else says. We're gonna blame it on her.
We're gonna blame it on her.
And if it wasn't, and if it wasn't really directly correlated with because of her, it was indirect because of the bad spirits on that ship because you let her on.
Absolutely, man. I mean, hasn't anybody heard about how much bad luck with a woman on a ship is? Christ. All right. Let's.
Bad juju.
Yeah. Bad mojo, whatever. Okay. Anyway, that first part isn't really.
All right, go.
Oh, hold on. Now I'm having problems interacting with it. What the fuck? Give me a break. Hold on, I'm having problems. Oh, here we go. All right, we're going to continue.
Histrionic women feel wonderful in Russia.
Yeah.
They are the norm. Everyone wants to be histrionic. Everyone wants to be irresistibly sexy and provocative and so on. If you're not, you're pedestrian, you're zero, a loser, a failure.
Yeah.
So
If Sam Vaknin is correct in that assessment, then I would say that the lion's share of women in Western society are psychopathic and narcissistic because our society makes that comfortable for them. I mean, what other culture, for the love of God, what other culture in our history celebrated women who killed their unborn children? Celebrated and paid them. I mean, really. It's really fucking sad.
Well, I like that he brought up Russian women. I don't know what your experience with Russian women are, but they are by far the most annoying women I've ever met on this planet.
I don't have too much experience with
They
them.
are horrible, man. They are so bad. We play billiards. No, we're not playing billiards. No, we dance. We go disco, and no billiards. I never came so close to hitting a woman in my life until I met a Russian woman. I swear to God, so annoying. And they're you think American women are high maintenance? Women are way more high maintenance than an American. Please believe me on that.
I heard Arab women are pretty easy to hit. All right, let's.
Oh God, I met this woman from Stipe. She was horrible, man. She was, oh God.
Yeah. Mekong Farang disagrees.
I have not had a positive. Sorry.
No, go ahead.
No, it's just I've met at least a dozen Russian women in my life, and they were all relatively the same, brutally annoying.
Jonathan Hardy's in. He says, regarding Asia, don't you think the Range Rover set are narcissistic lamprey? Do you know what he's talking about?
No, that's King Monkey. Hardy already knows that they separate. Yes, it is a form of narcissism, absolutely, but it's a way of ego preservation with those type of Cambodian males, and those Cambodian males were raised by single mothers. There's no men around, and we're gonna get more into the single mothers in Southeast Asia the further we go into this video. But why don't we continue with these videos, because we got a ways to go.
All right, here we go.
cultural and social contexts, expectations, and so on are very critical, so critical that I completely deny the existence of anything except this. I'm not talking about bipolar. Bipolar is biochemical.
Yeah.
I think that the overwhelming majority of all other problems, which with no medical correlate, are absolutely interactive problems.
Right.
Interpersonal, with society, social dysfunction, etc., etc. So, for example, I regard narcissism as an interpersonal problem, not as a personality problem. I told you yesterday, it's trauma and so on. Yeah. I think the main problem of narcissism is that it hampers it doesn't allow the narcissist to function properly in his environment, in his relationships, in his workplace, and so on. But take away all these elements, take a narcissist, isolate him in a room, give him supply through YouTube, and it's okay.
Yeah.
What's wrong with him? Why should he be treated?
Yeah. Okay. I had another question, but we'll be on that for all day.
What's that?
Just gonna
I was take a risk.
skip it a bit.
You could. It's just a thought experiment. I read too much sci-fi growing up. You could just say, okay, well, everybody that we've diagnosed as NPD, you make them wear a purple hat, and we just treat them differently. It's not a reasonable solution, but say that we just wanted to construct a solution, it would work.
You mean, I didn't quite understand.
You would say, if you could clearly identify, you could
Right.
say, okay, this person has NPD, and you can tell by looking at them. There is some identifier.
Right.
They need special attention, they
Right.
need special care, and say collectively, we agree with them. We just say, yeah, they do. They go to the front of the queue. There's now no...
Oh, right, accommodate them.
Yeah, we accommodate, but maybe even beyond accommodation. There was a...
The result of pity and mercy.
Yeah, yes, more than accommodation.
Compassion.
Yeah, you actually do uplift them, you agree with them. There was a stand-up comedian, Louis C.K., who said this about Donald Trump. He did a whole bit about, well, maybe we're wrong and he's right, and we should accommodate him and, you know, be kind to him and say, yes, no, you're right, you are very, very clever. Your brain is the biggest, the hugest. That's, you know, maybe that's the way to go with it. It's silly. Like, you can't do that reasonably.
What do you mean? We do it all the time. The vast majority of intellectuals, media people, showbiz people, politicians are narcissists.
Yeah.
The spec-
I'm gonna just move it ahead a bit.
Exactly what you do.
Yes.
If
You're
I
telling him
can.
yes.
Can I? I
You're the
can't.
funniest. Yes, you're the most intelligent.
Never mind, we're
Yes,
just
you should
watching it
rule
all
me.
the way through.
You should rule over me.
Yeah.
Yes, you should manage my finances. In other words, that's precisely what you do.
Well, then does the problem only really come in intimacy when you actually, if you're not having sex with them and you're not in love with them?
But that's exactly what I just said. Narcissism is not a problem. It's
Yeah.
not. It's not like having a short hand.
Right.
Narcissism is an interpersonal
Yes.
dysfunction.
Yes. Yeah.
Narcissism is mismatch.
Yes.
It's another name for mismatch
Yeah.
between the narcissist and specific environments, relationships,
Yeah.
and so on. Because, for example, if a narcissist
Oh shit! Sorry, guys.
What'd you do?
I don't know. I'm trying to figure this shit. I've never done this before on this program, so. All right, hold on a second. Just let's go over what he said there for a second. One of the things that struck me as interesting was when he was talking about narcissism being something that can only really be observed and measured when it's compared to the environment around them, when they're interacting with the environment, correct?
Yes.
So I found that kind of fascinating, and you know, it gets into more. Sorry about that, guys. I'm gonna see if I can. This is the first time I've tried to do this on OBS, so just kind of bear with me. See, I have. Okay, can I? Yeah, see, I can't forward it. I can't move it here, so I might have to do this a different way. All right.
Well, play a commercial and see if you can fix it.
All right, we'll be right back, guys. I have to try and fix something here.
Hello, comrade. John Johnson here. Former citizen of the USSR. Communism for you Americans. Are you tired of the leftist media and TV programs? Need a laugh? Check out Slaughterhouse Cartoons. They are shameless, making fun of everything. Women, men, any and all things. We at Slaughterhouse Cartoons also believe in the democratic process. So if you are a verified subscriber on YouTube, you have one vote per person, up or down, in comments, per cartoon. to keep it or dump it. We are also on Minds, BitChute, Twitter, Gab AI, Steemit, and all under the same name. If you like crude, rude, and everything else, check out Slaughterhouse Cartoons. You will not be disappointed. Goodbye.
Okay, we're back. I'm gonna actually do a little bit different. The way I was doing it through OBS in the second scene, you guys can see it now. It doesn't let me kind of manipulate it very much. So what I'm gonna do, there's probably a way to do it, but I haven't explored the program enough. So what I'm gonna do is just share the screen, and we'll play it from my desktop. Here, we'll go to 3 minutes. Just make sure that we are good. Yep. All right, here we go.
We just say, yeah, they do. They go to the front of the queue. There's now no...
Oh, right, accommodate them.
You just, maybe that's the way to go with it. It's silly, like you can't do that reasonably.
What do you mean? We do it all the time. The vast majority of intellectuals, media people, showbiz people, politicians are narcissists.
Yes.
That's precisely what you do.
Yes.
You're telling them, yes, you're the funniest. Yes, you're the most intelligent. Yes, you should rule me. You should rule over me.
Yeah.
Yes, you should manage my finances. In other words, that's precisely what you do.
Then does the problem only really come in intimacy when you actually, if you're not having sex with them and you're not in love with them?
But that's exactly what I just said. Narcissism is not a problem. It's not. It's not like having a short hand.
Right.
Narcissism is an interpersonal dysfunction.
Yes. Yeah.
Narcissism is mismatch.
Yes.
It's another name for mismatch
Yeah.
between the narcissist and specific environments, relationships, and so on. Because, for example, if a narcissist finds the right partner, that partner would have sex with him, would live with him, and be okay.
Yeah.
There would be no dysfunction there.
Right.
So, and what you said, we are doing it already.
Yeah.
I mean, the overwhelming majority of our elite are narcissists, and we allow them to become elite.
That's right. Yeah.
We give them money, we give them power, we give them admiration, we give them adulation. We of course, we do that. We just don't put a yellow star on them.
I said purple hat, but yellow star.
Purple hat. I mean, all the rest we do. All the rest we do. We do accommodate these personalities and even recognize their superiority because they rule over us, they control our finances, we admire them, we learn from them, we listen to them, not the other way, etc., etc. We are doing it already.
Yes.
And indeed, these are for some reason called high-functioning narcissists.
Yeah.
I don't understand that. I never heard of high-functioning tuberculosis.
Right.
I mean, either narcissism is a clinical entity which is obstructive to functioning and or it is not.
Yeah.
I don't understand how, if you take a narcissist from this environment where everything in his life is destroyed and ruined and disaster and so on, and you transport him to another environment, he suddenly becomes high functioning.
Right.
Either he can function or he cannot function
if
it's an inherent thing.
Yes.
If it's part of him, if it's internal to him as his blood.
Yeah.
Either he is a functional person or he is not a functional.
Right.
If I take a paranoid schizophrenic, never mind where I put him, he will never function.
Yeah.
If I put him in university and then I move into the White House and then I move him to a TV studio, in all in this environment he will hear voices. It's an objective clinical entity.
Yeah.
It's independent of circumstances, environment, context. Not so narcissism.
Yeah.
If you take a narcissist and put him in another environment, he suddenly flourishes. He's functional, he's happy, and everyone around him is happy. I mean, narcissists are capable of making people happy. Of course they are.
Yeah.
I mean, look at Trump. He made 40 million people happy.
Yes. Yeah.
It's, and this is why I don't believe that there is such a thing as narcissism, as a clinical entity.
Right. Right.
As a social dysfunction, definitely.
Yeah.
As an interpersonal dysfunction, definitely.
Yeah.
It's not a disease,
Yeah.
or a disorder, or clinical.
Yeah.
It's simply a person who suffered trauma at an early stage in life, and that affects the way he interacts in specific circumstances.
Right.
Change the circumstances is okay.
Yeah.
Same with psychopaths, by the way. You take a psychopath, you deny him education and so on, he ends up in prison, selling drugs. But you put him through Harvard, and he manages a company. A big company, Fortune 500.
Yeah.
3.5% of them are psychopaths, diagnosed
Yeah.
by Hare, the god of psychopathy.
Yeah.
Diagnosed psychopath, 3.5%. It's a fact. I mean, wait a minute. Psychopath? How can psychopath be a pillar of the community? I mean, so it's not an entity. It's not a clinical entity. It's anything you want. It's I don't know. It's bad. It's good. It's obnoxious. It's, we can have argument, philosophical, ethical.
Yeah, but it's not
criminal.
It's not a clinical
Nothing
entity.
to do with psychology.
Yeah.
Nothing to do with psychology. And the same for histrionic women, and the same for, I mean, if you look at everything that's not medical, trust me, nothing is left. There is nothing except this. I mean, all the rest is society's discomfort with idiosyncrasy.
Yeah.
Okay, there's the 9-minute mark. What did you want to bring up at that point, Lamprey? I'm going to stop. Oh, sorry, guys. By doing it this way, I can't see your comments live. So after we pause it, I'm going to stop sharing and go back to see what you guys are commenting. Anyway, go ahead, Lamprey.
Okay, so basically, the way I take it and the way I perceive it is people from my neighborhood, let's say New York City, Long Island, the tri-state region, Trump's territory, we are definitely one of the most narcissistic, I guess, enclaves in the United States. The second being, I would assume, Los Angeles, Hollywood, San Francisco on the West Coast. I was speaking to my uncle yesterday, and he says, why don't you move to Florida? And I'm like, well, why would I move to Florida? Because the government in Florida and the business in Florida love New Yorkers. And I asked them, why do they love New Yorkers? And he responded, because New Yorkers get things done. Okay, because of our ability to be more motivated, more money hungry, much more, I guess, again, a lack of empathy. Fuck you. I want it. I'm going to take it. I'm going to fire this person. I'm going to get the job done. Now, when you start discussing Trump's narcissism, Trump is not a narcissist. Okay, I don't understand this. He sounds like any other guy, regardless of his ethnicity. He sounds like a New Yorker.
Right.
That's basically it. And a lot of people perceive that as, whoa, he's a narcissist. No, he's just from New York. Okay, so yes, if Trump were to go to China, if he was to go visit, the ambassador to some country in Africa, they're going to be blown away by how aggressive he is, by how much of a bully he is. It's not necessarily him being a narcissist, it's just his upbringing, it's just who he was around. It was the culture in which he grew up. He grew up in New York in the 1970s, 80s, and 90s. Of course he's going to be the way he is because of, his surroundings, his environment.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I agree.
That's what I wanted to. That's basically what I wanted to say.
On that part there, I wanted to bring a couple points. One, it was interesting. Right before I stopped it, he brought up the hair psychology test. When he said that, what was it, 3% of CEOs? I don't know if this is worldwide. He wasn't that specific, but 3% of CEOs.
It's probably higher. I think that's an underestimate, personally.
Maybe higher. He said 3%, and he said those are people that have been clinically tested. And he mentioned the hair test, which he took, and said he was a psychopath. He did that on a television show. So
yes, but I actually have the hairs test, and the problem with the hairs test is if you give it to a psychopath, there's a major flaw in it. How about the psychopath just lies on the test?
Right. Well, what if they did?
So that's why it's disregarded amongst psychologists.
Well,
it's a good measuring tool,
right,
but it's not regarded as a end all to be all.
Oh, okay. Let's see. Slaughterhouse says he is talking about an absolute for human personality. Strange. Well, I'll tell you, man, Slaughterhouse, in psychological fields and in pseudo-psychological fields, the study of human personalities is huge, man. It's everywhere. It's a money-making thing. People make money off selling ideas and giving lectures on how to identify certain personality groups. They're a dime a dozen, man. They're everywhere. And people make money doing this shit. There's tons of them. As a teacher, I saw tons of them pass through quality control at the schools I worked at.
Well, I've worked with a psychopath. My employer in Cambodia was without a doubt a psychopath or sociopath, and the girl when I was younger, the one that I found Sam through, was a narcissist. And through my two experiences, and again, these are my personal experiences. When I mention them to people, they get butthurt. That's not a psychopath. The psychopath doesn't do this. I'm like, okay, I'm giving you my perspective on the two that I've bumped into. Okay, asshole. So cigarette smoking was a big one. High threshold for pain. Very high threshold for pain. Never unable to keep an agreement. Unable to keep an agreement. I'm trying to think. The stare. Definitely, the eyes are a huge one for me. It's like looking into a void. But the brow never moves. They just look at you stone cold. They're very gullible. The gullibility was through the roof on both the narcissist and the psychopath that I was acquainted with. So there are a couple things that I'm able to say that are dead reckonings that I can say. Okay, that's definitely a sign of a psychopath. Lack of social media was another one. The narcissist and the psychopath did not have any form of social media, which I found really strange because the girl was absolutely stunningly gorgeous and she had no social media whatsoever, and I found that to be quite odd. And the psychopath had a Facebook page just for business, not for attention, not for friends. Both of them had very strained relationships with their families. So there are a couple things that I was able to pick up on. Thrill seeking was another one. There are a couple things you can definitely take away and check the boxes as far as if you think you're encountering either a sociopath or a narcissist.
Well, another thing that I thought was interesting when he mentioned, he said he found it strange that people classify narcissism into categories like high functioning narcissism. He's like, how can you have? He's like, I've never heard of high functioning pneumonia, right? So he's seeing it as a sort of illness, right? But then he also makes a comparison where something like schizophrenia as a disorder is very objective, regardless of the environment you put the schizophrenic in. He's still going to have episodes and hallucinations, whereas the psychopath, I guess the psychopath and the narcissist will function differently depending on the environment that they are thriving in. And it makes me wonder, what category do feminists fall into? Do feminists lean more to the schizophrenic side, where they're so objective in their ideology?
Borderline.
You think so? Or do they fall on the narcissist side, where they thrive and function differently depending on the environment they're thrown into? Because, in my opinion, feminism is definitely a disorder. It's a mental disorder, and I would throw it up there with transgenderism, gender dysphoria.
Well, liberalism is a mental disorder.
Yeah. Bordering on schizophrenia. But anyway.
All right, go on, keep playing.
All right, let's go on to the next one, guys.
The next marker's at 12.
Yeah, okay, here we go. Sharing the screen.
It's a collective social, collective social, ooh, this guy's an asshole. Ooh, this guy is I'm afraid of him.
Yeah.
Psychopath.
Yeah.
Ooh, but that's not a foundation for science.
No.
Imagine you said, ooh, that's a helium atom.
Ugh.
No, I hate helium
Helium.
Shalom.
Shalom.
Salam alaikum. What is wrong? What is going wrong with men and women today and relationships today? There seems to be a lot of tension, a lot of breakdowns, a lot of resentment, a lot of anger, divorce,
Here we go.
skyrocketing. Why is this happening now?
I think the question deals with two separate issues. The first one is intergender relations. And the second one is the disintegration of social organizational units. It so happens that one of the organizational units is a family. And it so happens that most families, not all, are men and women. So we tend to confuse. We say, oh, well, the family is disintegrating because relationship between men and women are bad. But of course it's not true. The trend, the upward trend in divorce started well over 100 years ago.
Right.
So divorce reflects what Emil Durkheim called anomy. Divorce reflects the society's, for lack of a better word, disintegration. The units we had used for at least 10,000 years, the units we had used to organize our life, to distribute resources as equitably as possible, to pass on wealth from generation to generation, to regulate relationships, to resolve disputes. All the units that we have constructed are no longer working, no longer functional, no longer useful, in effect. In principle, there's nothing wrong with discarding things that don't work in favor of things that work. So, for example, I don't see anything wrong in expanding the definition of marriage and family to include all possible variants.
Okay.
I mean, two transgendered, six transgendered in a house with 4 homosexuals. I mean,
That's the one I want, whatever that is. I want.
the homosexuals. So, I don't see any problem with that.
Right.
Some people adhere to rigid definitions. If the definition changes, the unit changes, but it's not true.
Yeah.
Everything, for example, nation state. Nation state is extremely new organizational principle. The first nation states were fewer than 200 years ago.
All right, we're going to stop at the 12-minute mark, where he just started about nation states. So now we're getting into the meat of it, gentlemen. I'm going to stop sharing again so I can see your comments. One sec. All right. Well, Messenger's in. Geez, we're not even covering the vampire narcs, the ones who personally make it their agenda to try and destroy you emotionally and mentally. Very forms of government. Yeah, we're talking a little bit about narcissism, but our main point is Messenger is the future female, and some of Vaknin's points. Now, here's where we're getting into it, man. First of all, the one again, he makes a lot of throwaway comments. Are you still there, Lamprey?
Yep.
Okay, good. He makes a lot of throwaway comments that, again, if you kind of scratch below the surface, they might be claims very difficult to actually prove to be true, or completely true, maybe partially true. But one of the things he said is the upward trend in divorce happened well over 100 years ago. That might be true. I don't know for sure. But if we say well over 100 years ago, you're talking about before the beginning of the 20th century. But I think we all know that even if you can call it an upward trend before the 20th century, it would be so slight that would almost unnoticeable. Yet today, maybe we can apply numbers to it and say, oh, okay, now it is going up, but you kind of got to look really closely. But we need to be honest, and again, this is something that Vaknin needs to be honest with himself about, is that divorce really didn't make an upward trend, at least not a real measurable one that mattered to the point where it affected completely affected cultures, especially in a negative way, was when in the 70s with the no-fault divorce laws that started spreading up all over.
It was the 80s. It was the 80s with no fault divorce. So basically, the upward trend. We discussed alimony. Alimony took place in the first turn of the 20th century. So we can have that as a ticker where the upward trend was taking place,
Well,
that
and-
there was enough women that want to leave their husbands during that time.
Another tick would be women voting. Women getting the
Women voting.
women getting the right to vote without getting the responsibility of having voting power without any of the consequences that males had. So that was a big upswing as well.
Yes. Right, and then the major one is obviously the past 20 to 25 years.
Yeah.
You can't be talking 10,000 years when it's only been, the past 25 years that we can actually now clinically measure it as
Yes.
being a major problem.
Well, and the other thing that I find interesting, and I'm going to get into this more because he talks about it. He says he doesn't see a problem with expanding the concept of marriage, but that is one of the reasons why marriage is falling apart and there's more divorces. So in one breath, he's acknowledging that divorces are happening more, but then he supports an idea that is actually creating that problem.
Right, he's supporting the idea of men wearing high heels and taking up roles of the opposite sex,
Yeah.
which is a societal perversion.
It's a breakdown of society, actually. It is
Yes.
it is what leads and has led to breakdowns of society, and I will get into that a little bit later and reference a little bit of that J.D. Unwin stuff that I showed you, which is a complete contradiction to a lot of what he's saying here, and it is pretty
All right, so
fascinating.
continue playing.
All right, we're going to continue playing here. There we go.
It's very new.
Oh, let me share the
Italy-
screen. Let me share the screen. Gotta do this right. Here we go.
It was established 100 and something years ago. Germany 100 something years ago. United States 200 and something years ago. It's these are new things. So there's nothing wrong with it. Before that we had empires. Before that we had monarchy. So and we're still alive and well. It's nothing wrong with it. So I'm not alarmed by the fact that the nuclear family, men, woman, 2 children, 1.5 dogs, the nuclear family is disintegrating, admittedly. There's a lot of divorce going on as a form of dissolving this unit. And instead, there are all kinds of arrangements. So, I don't see anything alarming with that.
Okay.
He doesn't
And
see
I don't
anything
think
alarming with it.
that this is an indicator of intergender relations, because I think this is an autonomous process.
Okay.
Technology, globalization, opening up of borders. I mean, all this created inevitable stress on numerous institutions, as the European Union is discovering with Brexit.
Yeah.
All institutions are subject to stress, and many of them change beyond recognition. Intergender relationship, there I agree with Peterson, with Jordan Peterson. That's a fundamental problem. That has little to do with these external stresses.
Okay.
Let's start with let's go a level deeper. Gender. Gender is not sex, of course. Gender is socially defined in specific social contexts. Gender is a series of functions and roles allocated to someone with a vagina or a penis. Now, you've been to Albania recently and survived to tell about it. And in northern Albania,
Funny.
and maybe you've heard of it, when a clan or a family doesn't have male heirs, they can take females and designate them as males.
Yeah. So they're the ones who can then inherit the
And they
wealth.
become males.
Yeah.
They have all legal rights of males under the Kanun. They bind their chest and so on, so they look like men. They dress like men in male clothing.
Yeah.
They do men's work. They go to the fields, and I mean, they become men, utter men. They are allowed to sit in male company, in coffee houses and so on,
I didn't know
and
that.
smoke narghilas. I mean,
Alright.
they're males.
I thought it was a symbolic thing just so they
Not
could
symbolic
inherit
at
money.
all.
They
They're
become
absolute males.
men.
They're
Men.
patriarchs.
Right.
They have patriarch powers under
Okay.
the Kanun, 15th
Okay.
century Kanun.
Okay.
They're males. They have converted to males.
15th century.
Of course, everyone knows they have vagina, but that has nothing to do with malehood.
Okay.
So,
So that's a 15-minute mark.
All right, so first, wait, okay. So I have 2 coworkers from northern Albania. I played that clip for them, and they started laughing saying that that doesn't exist anymore, and it's like something from 100 years ago. The other point I want to make
Vaknin did
is
say. He said 15th century, which I made.
it was, yeah. So I played that for my coworkers from Northern Albania. They're from one's from Northern Albania, the other one's on the other side of the border from Montenegro. I consider him Albanian, but he says he's not because there's a lot of negativity surrounding Albanians, which I'll discuss in another live stream. But as he joked, he says, "You live to tell about it." Yeah, Albanians are crazy, man. Those are craziest Europeans out there. There's no doubt about it. But the thing I found that struck me most fascinating, and I've mentioned this on previous live stream, is that, yeah, there are women that take up masculine roles. In Vietnam, the women run the show. They're chain smoking, they're pounding beers, you know, they know how to, clean an AK-47. So, yeah, that is quite common. In Cambodia, it's a little bit strange in Cambodia. It's not so much like Vietnam, but the construction site comprises of mostly women. But electricians, plumbers, architects, those are still men. So, you have to take this with a grain of salt. What he's saying is, when it requires some type of ingenuity and, a thought process above the grain, you need a man to do that type of stuff.
Yeah, and I think when he was talking about, again, when going back to Albania, he does drop 15th century. He's picking and choosing historical little tidbits of history to try and support his views, because before he mentioned Albania and the fact that women took on roles of men in the 15th century, of course it doesn't happen today, but it did back then. What he was saying was that there was nothing alarming to him with the disintegration, and he called it the nuclear family, and that's a much more modern term. It's not that old, but what he's saying is he has no problem with the disintegration of, I'm not going to say nuclear family, I'll say the monogamous, heterosexual, patriarchal family unit. That's more accurate. That's much, much more accurate, and that's the unit that built empires.
Absolutely.
That's the unit that built empires. The unit that destroyed empires is the units that he is proposing he has no problems with, which are men and women with gender dysphoria, a mental illness, confused about what sex they belong to, and trying to run the show. That's out of control sodomy, homosexuality, pedophilia, sexual corruption at all levels. That's what breaks it down. The units that brought up society were monogamous, heterosexual, and patriarchal. And I'll get more into the definitions of that as we go on with the video, because it relates a lot to what he says later. All right, so let's continue here. Sharing the screen. I want 2005 for the next.
Gender is not the same as sex.
Right.
Disagree.
The problem in modernity, the problem in modern societies, is that both have been challenged simultaneously. Sexuality and gender.
Right.
Sexuality is challenged because it's no longer binary. We don't have male, female in sex terms.
Yeah.
But now we have a whole spectrum. And you can be in the middle, at the end, you can change your sex, change back, and so on. So sex became very, very fluid and can no longer serve as the foundation of gender.
Okay.
So if sex is taken out of the equation, what remains? What underlies gender? Well, power. Gender has always been about sex plus power. These were the two components of gender. Power was codified in legislation, in actual power, informal power, formal power, but it's always been about sex plus power. If we take sex out, because today you can be a man, tomorrow a woman, today you can be transgender, you can have a lesbian phase and then go back to being heterosexual. I mean, it's totally fluid. Then it's no longer a good foundation. It's like sand, So what's left is power. And now, and this is without precedent, and that's where I agree with Jordan Peterson. What's happening today is without precedent in all in the entirety of human history.
Yeah.
Never happened before.
Right.
Power is contested on so many fronts that it had become the simmering equivalent of a civil war. Now, for me, not to mislead the viewers, matriarchy and patriarchy are the exceptions in human history. The vast majority of human history, men and women were equal. There was no patriarchy or matriarchy, but they collaborated on equal footing. And for example, in hunter-gatherer societies, men went out to hunt, but the majority of nutrition was gathered by women, and most of the time, men were dependent on women for food, not the other way.
Right.
They brought an antelope once a month.
Every once in a while.
And so, then okay, they ate first. But generally, it was like that. And women controlled the habitation. Men were out of the habitation. Women controlled the kind of cities. Women controlled the children, which were a major resource, because only with children you could gather and hunt. And so women and men had kind of equal power. And in some of these societies, women were even a bit more than men. And that was the majority of human existence.
Right.
And then there was a minor phase of matriarchal societies, where actually women ruled, and women were on top. And we have echoes of this. In Judaism, for example, you're a Jew only if your mother is a Jew. I mean, father is totally irrelevant. He's a sperm donor. And the mother determines, a totally matrilineal society. So this is a distant echo of the... And of course, in the Bible, men and women have equal footing. I mean, no one implies that Jacob and his 4 wives he's like patriarch, and they are negotiating, arguing, disagreeing, agreeing, making decisions together, and so on.
I'd never thought of that. I'd never heard that before.
Yeah, I mean, have a look at the life of Isaac, of Jacob, of Abraham. They constantly talk to it's joint decision making. It's all. Of course, Adam and Eve. Adam and Eve were equals. So, and then something happened. What happened was agriculture. Agriculture required muscle power. Long before the plow was...
Let me just stop it there for a second.
Yep.
So at the 19-minute mark, I'm going to stop sharing the screen. I think he's starting to run away with some crazy ideas again. Gender's not the same as sex. I can't. That's such a bold claim that without any evidence, it just comes down to him kind of.
But that goes back to what I said about women in Vietnam and women in Cambodia. The women in Vietnam fought off the Chinese invasion in 1979. The army the NVA consisted of obviously men, were too busy invading Cambodia. The Chinese army decided this is a great time for us to invade Vietnam because all the men are in Kampuchea. They're in Kampuchea Krom, they're in Saigon, and they're running amok in Cambodia. They've invaded Cambodia. All the major divisions were invaded Cambodia as soon as the U.S. pulled out. Chinese were like, great, let's strike the iron while it's hot, while the NVA is too busy, and they've left all their northern defenses wide open. Well, guess what? The Vietnamese women took up arms and fought back the Chinese, right? And then let's look at Israel. Up until recently, they allowed women to serve in combat roles, and they've just
they stopped
just
doing it.
done that. They stopped doing that
because it doesn't fucking
possibly
work.
for very good reasons.
Yeah, it doesn't fucking work.
Right, because it doesn't work.
So
the whole idea,
missing.
then we want to talk about gender fluid, which, right? So, and then he's going to start getting into the whole idea of fluid. Okay, so who's going to be the plumber? Because the transgender is not going to be the plumber. Okay, the transgender is not going to lay down railroad ties for the infrastructure. No, there's going to be no transgender paving roads. And no, women are not going to really be doing that, especially North American women. Okay, so we need to make that clear that some of these things are not going to get done regardless by people, by sexes that identify with the female, feminist gender, whatever that is, high heels and Gucci bags. They're not going to be doing these fucking things.
No, but and also, when he's talking about 15th century Albanian women that became men, what he failed to say, and again, this applies in Vietnam, it applies, I think, across the board, is that these women, culturally, they were accepted by men. Guess why? Because they were expected to take on the responsibility that men already had. You want to take on the responsibility? You can get in the game. You don't take on the responsibility, you're not allowed in the game. It's real fucking simple.
Right.
And with these Albanian women, it basically came down to, I don't have any sons. You're going to be the heir to everything I have. Therefore, you're going to take on male responsibilities. If you're willing to take on male responsibilities, then yes, you can come in and fucking smoke cigars with the boys. And I completely understand that. That makes perfect sense. But it doesn't have anything to do with them being men or becoming men. It has them taking on male responsibility. Very big difference. And I think that's part of what he gets wrong. He doesn't differentiate between... He keeps going on about men and women being equal. It's a load of shit. And he patently false said the Bible says men and women are equal. That is patently false. It is absolutely false. Anybody that has studied the Bible for fucking 10 minutes knows that's false. Adam and Eve were not equal.
He has studied the Bible too.
So what the fuck is he talking about?
So,
like, look, the whole story of Adam and Eve is he pulled fucking Eve out of Adam's rib, for the love of God. They're not equal. They never were meant to be equal. I mean, it is so patriarchal, the Bible. I don't understand where he's coming from. The only time that you can even get into the Quran as well. It's so like the Quran is a book written for men. It is written for men to read. There is no such thing in any of these religions. Now, going into his Jewish origins, and I'm not picking on the fact that he's a Jew, but it's a matter of fact that yes, there is a matriarchal sort of heritage in the Jewish culture, where you take on the woman's name, and the woman is sort of the line is followed through the womb, and that makes common sense. And the reason that makes common sense is because one of the differences between men and women, which defines sex, is that maternity is 100% guaranteed. You always know which vagina you came out of, but paternity is not. You don't know which sperm you came from. It's not 100% guaranteed. There can be a question, and which is the logical thing. What the Jews did is like, well, we know that he came from the mom, so we'll follow that. We'll follow the matriarchal line. But that matriarchal line was a damper to society developing culture. As soon as they get, and this is what patriarchy means. He defines patriarchy like feminists do. Patriarchy does not mean some kind of overreaching male power where men had all the privileges and power. That's feminist neo-Marxist bullshit. Patriarchy means a household led by the father. It comes from the root padre, father. Pat, male, mat, female. Matrimony, patrimony. Patriarch, matriarch. Very simple. Etymology, you can follow the definitions of the words. Patriarchy means paternity was guaranteed, which meant a man knew, because he was in a monogamous, heterosexual family unit that was guaranteed through some kind of contractual agreement, he knew it was his kid, which meant he had a dog in the fight and was willing to do things and sacrifice for his community and build community and culture. That's what built it. So, I mean, I don't know where he's coming up with a lot of this stuff, man.
all right, let's keep going.
All right, hold on. Oh, share screen.
Invented. It was the brawn,
Yeah.
the muscles.
Yeah.
Men had more muscles, biologically. So they had a scarce resource, muscles, which you seem to have a lot of. So they took over. And a patriarchal phase started. But it's an aberration
Nah, again, this is
blip.
crap.
Right.
In human history. At a blip. And we are living at the end of this blip.
So you would refute, I mean, most feminists would say, oh, it's been patriarchy forever.
Not true.
So it's a blip.
Historically untrue.
agricultural revolution, was that 5,000 years?
About 5,000, 6,000 years.
Okay.
It's historically completely untrue.
Okay.
It's, of course, agriculture led to cities.
Yeah.
Cities. In all these places, there was patriarchy.
Yeah.
But because we have our field of vision is limited in the best case to 10,000 years, we say, well, that's always the way it's been.
This way, yeah.
It's not, it's a blip. It's an utter blip. And we are living at the end of this blip. Why am I saying that's the end of this blip? Because of several developments. Everyone is pointing at the pill. The pill liberated women, they could fuck without getting pregnant and so on and so forth. Well, yes, it's good for sex. But that's not a major shift in power. Because women always knew how to avoid children. And if they got pregnant, they aborted. Really, that was not a major problem. If a woman wanted to fuck around, the risk of getting pregnant never deterred her. Right. Even chastity belts did not work when a woman wanted. Really.
All right, gotta stop it again. I don't disagree with them. I mean, the pill wasn't the only thing, but when he says that even before the pill they could get abortion, no, abortion was not really even legally acceptable in Western countries, especially in America, till what was it, Roe versus Wade. So even before then, and in most cultures, it was seen as, you know, it was linked to infanticide. It was frowned upon. So I don't know.
Right. What are you talking about? Fourth trimester abortion? Like, what are you talking about? You know?
Yeah, I don't know what he's saying. He's saying even before the pill, women would just fuck whoever they wanted and get an abortion. I'm like, what? See, even the interviewer's like, what the hell are you talking about, dude? Like, come up with at least reference a source from where you're getting this shit. Anyway.
From personal experience, I was there.
You had all the tools to get out.
All the tools with the dinosaurs, they were standing behind. I don't regard it as that a major revolution.
The pill.
The pill. I mean, it's important for sexual liberation. Don't forget that all this hype around the pill was in the 60s. Yeah. Free love, this, that. Yeah. So it's a bit the 60s to say that. I think there were fundamental changes. Fundamental. Which ended the blip, ended patriarchy. And I think now men are revolting. There's a counter-revolution trying to regain this power, recapture it. Just totally hopeless counter-revolution.
Right.
Totally hopeless because that's patriarchy is not the natural state of humanity.
So
it's an aberration.
We're actually coming back to a natural state.
Yes, we are coming back to a natural.
Here again, he's saying that patriarchy is not a natural state of humanity. It's an aberration, and he's saying the natural state is more matriarchal, which is a very Jewish thing to say, because that's kind of the culture they live in. First of all, I disagree with the definition he uses, how he defines patriarchy. So it's very hard for me to either agree or disagree with those statements because his definition of it is fucking way wrong. Second, if I define patriarchy based on what I understand it, and again, it is guaranteed paternity for a man, which needed a certain family unit for it to function, and which created society. If that ends, culture ends. If that ends, society ends. And now I'm going to bring up an article here to kind of make that point. And again, this is going to this J.D. Unwin. And I found an article on it when I was looking at this this Vaknin video you sent me. Now J.D. Unwin was an author. He was kind of around he was putting out psychological type books and works on culture. A little bit after Freud, and he wrote a book called In Sex and Culture, and he studied 80 primitive tribes and 6 known civilizations through 5,000 years of history, and found, I haven't read this book yet, but I certainly want to get it, and found a positive correlation between the cultural achievement of people and the sexual restraint they observe. According to Unwin, after a nation becomes prosperous, it becomes increasingly liberal with regard to sexual morality. and as a result loses its cohesion, its impetus, and its purpose. The effect, says the author, is irrevocable. Unwin also infers that legal equality, and only legal equality between men and women and men, is necessary to institute before absolute monogamy is instituted. Otherwise, the monogamy will erode in the name of emancipating women, as he shows has occurred numerous times and places throughout all of written history. I do not think that Sam is unfamiliar with this man's work. And everything he's saying is in complete contradiction to it. I don't understand, like, this is the part that I don't get about what he's saying, and I just can't agree with it. Patriarchy is what the true definition of patriarchy in a culture. If it fails, culture dies. All right? And this is a study of 6 known civilizations through 5,000 years of history, and without exception, every time they failed was because of this. Sexual liberation, the downfall of a patriarchal family unit, and then culture just slides into the shithole with it. And we are in that downfall. This is irrevocable, according to Unwin.
We're swirling the toilet.
It's done, man. And Vankin's sitting there going, I don't see a problem with it, as we're being flushed down the toilet. More matriarchy.
Right, well, he gets further into it on why he's like that in that part 3, but maybe we could do the part 3 next week or a time we don't have guests. But let's take a look at the fall of the Roman Empire right before Constantine. Right before Constantine decided to change over the Roman Empire to Christianity, there was all this decadent decay taking place. We'll look at the Emperor Elgabalus. Elgabalus was a 13-year-old emperor of Rome who threw out the calendar. I forgot the calendar they were using, but he tossed the calendar aside and used to sneak out of the palace, dress up as a woman, and get fucked in the bars at night. As a Roman emperor, he ruled from the age of 13 to 17, and his mother told him what to say in front of the Senate, and the mother controlled via proxy the entire the Roman legions. Okay, and the reason why I bring this up is because when Constantine took over, he looked at the society at large and realized, you know what, this Christianity, it's probably better to use this as a template to rule a society than what the Romans had, where they had, it was polytheists, there's sorcery, sacrificing virgins, so on and so forth. Okay, so the way he was able to resurrect the Roman Empire was initiating more of a patriarchal society upon the Roman people.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, in the end, it was too late.
No, it wasn't. It lasted for another 400 or 500 years.
Yeah, okay, yeah. On the time scale, you're right.
On the time scale, there's other reasons why when it converted over to the Byzantine Empire, there was other problems. But when we were talking about Rome itself, the western half fell. They were still, having, bringing lions in to eat a fucking African slave. Meanwhile, the Germanic tribes were knocking at the walls, the Roman walls. So yes, I understand where you're going with on the decay and on the slide. But yeah, during the slide of the Roman Empire, we introduced transgenders. There was, obviously orgies. Gluttony was run amok. So yeah,
Well, objectively, you would call it sexual debauchery.
Rome was totally debauched.
No sexual morals, no sexual constraint. Constraint was considered taboo. I mean, that's what's happening today. I mean, we call it sexual liberation. We might as well just call it a lack of sexual restraint, which is a positive thing to create a civilization. I mean, I put
Well, you have to. There has to be a void. You can't have sexual liberation, and there's a obviously there's an anarchic what do you call it, a
Anarchy?
phase where it's anarchy.
Hmm.
Okay, and that was definitely the 70s and 80s where at disco and people started doing cocaine in the 80s. I'm talking from a United States perspective, and it was fun. Going by what my parents explained and my aunts and uncles, it was a good time because they still knew that okay, I don't have to be a virgin, but I can't fuck 10 guys. Okay,
Right.
I'll sleep around. I'll have a couple boyfriends, but I know I gotta settle down. I know I gotta get married, and the party's over. Now it's completely different.
Yeah. Well, I put a link into the low bar guys of an article I came across through a website called Link U, and it's actually I found out through Black Pigeon Speaks channel. Apparently, he sponsors this website. But this article was fantastic, and again, it's talking about Unwin. J.D. Unwin warned feminism would destroy culture 30 years before women's lib. I'll just read a few parts from it. Thinking the laws of nature and concepts of sexual restraint no longer apply, just as our society does today, was a fatal error for each of the 80 tribes and 6 civilizations Unwin studied. Okay? Convinced, this is an interesting quote, convinced that the cultural process is a progressive development. This is where we are. Tell me, does this not fucking scare you? Convinced that the cultural process is a progressive development, right? And this is all we hear about from the left. We're progressive. We're progressing. We're progressive. So convinced that the cultural process is a progressive development and that our own culture is the most developed of all cultures, we assume that every change in our cultural condition is evidence of a higher cultural development.
Right.
This is part of that
So
fatal error.
is transgender a form of a progression? That's
what,
regressive.
It's absolutely regressive, man. A lot of people call it the regressive left in that sense. And I use left because obviously feminism falls deep left. Deep neo-Marxist left. But this is where the fault lies. And I think a lot of intelligent red pill people kind of forget this as well. Is that once culture has achieved a sort of not a utopia. That's a not an oxymoron, but that's
as close as utopia you can imagine.
I suppose. I suppose, but just a level of comfort, right? A level of comfort and almost hedonism, seeking of pleasure. We have so much time to seek self-pleasure these days, and that the reason we have that is because we have a culture that was built on a patriarchal family unit, a heterosexual, patriarchal, monogamous family unit. That gave us this level of hedonism. And now that we have it, we forget that, wait a second, we're not always moving forward and progressing. Not every change we make in society is something that is a positive progress to betterment. But we make that assumption. It's not. We're not headed towards higher cultural development. Regardless of what Sam says, just celebrating the fact that 3 men and 2 transgender children can have a functioning fucking unit, celebrating that is sickening. It's ridiculous.
Well, yeah, because the transgender parents, their little son is definitely going to be an astronaut someday.
Yeah. I'll just read a couple more and then we'll move on here. Historical cycles and what they tell us about the decline of cultures have once again become relevant a decade and a half later, even as some biological consequences of a free-for-all sexual market have been staved off by advances in contraception and the legalization of killing unborn children. We have not been set free from the psychological, sociological, and societal consequences of a feminized sexual marketplace. Absolutely not. It almost seems to me that we're taking a bullet train down regression, the path of regression culturally, and it stems completely from sexual aberration, 100%. Again, it brings up the free-for-all murder of children, legalization of killing unborn children. all of this put together is the toilet. The toilet bowl's been flushed, man. It's been flushed. I have very weak hopes of the next generation or two in the West. And I just don't understand why Sam is celebrating it. I don't get it. Anyway, let's keep going here. I'm going to share the screen.
State of humanity. In a minute, I'll try to explain why. They are fundamental things, not the pill. The first thing is, men fucked up. They ended up having 2 world wars, which almost destroyed the planet. Then they invented nuclear weapons, then they almost destroyed the planet a third time, and so on. And women had enough of it. During the First World War and Second World War, there was such a dearth, such a few number of people, of men, that women had to take over men roles. So you saw women in factories, women driving, women. Suddenly, women were liberated by circumstance. There were no men around. It's very much like the Black Death.
Right.
The Black Death liberated the working class, the hoi polloi, and they took over to this very day. Nobility is gone.
Yeah.
The First and Second World War, which were as cataclysmic as the Black Death, liberated women and gave them entry into male enclaves, which they never had before. Of course, women were free to cheat on their men. I mean, if the man was 5 years away and fighting in Fujiyama or wherever, I mean, suddenly they were sexually liberated. They could fuck around. And
He seems a little bit of a cuck. Just throwing that in there.
No penalty and so on. So it freed women. The power started to shift. It is not by accident that together with baby boomer generation, divorce suddenly shot up. It was going up gradually well over 100 years before, but it shot up.
Right.
Because women felt free and then again were required to be slaves in the 1950s. And they did not agree to it.
Yeah.
And then we have militant feminism
Right.
after Second World War.
Okay.
Militant feminism. Because listen, I've seen the good life.
Yeah.
I went to a factory, I fucked around. I don't want to go back being your slave,
And
washing your socks.
there's now no longer a mysticism to what you do.
Yeah, I
Before
know
it was
what you're
special.
doing. I mean,
You
this
went.
is what you're doing?
Yeah.
I can do it with my hands tied behind my back and my eyes.
Right.
I mean, what's that?
Yeah.
Serious?
I think that he's really stretching on his origins of feminism. It's so much more nuanced and deep than that. It has so many hallmarks of social engineering.
We'll get into that. Let's finish
Yeah,
it. Then
okay.
we'll.
Okay.
That's what it's all about. I mean,
Yeah, I can do it.
And you want me to wash your socks? Fuck off. So, the power matrix shifted irretrievably, irreversibly. There was nothing could be done about it. It couldn't be taken back. And divorce shot up. One thing we discussed first time we met, divorce was the biggest transfer of wealth in the history of humanity. Nothing comes close to it. Not the OPEC oil boom, and not the gold rush, and not nothing. Nothing comes close to it. Every year, about 1/5 to 1/4 of marriages dissolve. In most such dissolutions of marriage, the man transfers resources to the woman. He gives her half the property, half the communal property, and he gives her alimony and supports her children. In economics, we call it annuity. Annuity is when you invest in an underlying asset, like a bond or a stock, and you get dividends for the rest of your life, or you get interest payments for the rest of your life. This is called annuity. Marriage is an annuity. You get married to a man, as a woman, you get married to a man, then you divorce him, and you have annuity.
Yeah.
You gained part of his property, and then payments, literally for life, if you're not stupid.
Yes.
For life. That's an annuity. Now think about it. Well into the 1990s, actually, statistically, until 1998, more than 90% of all wealth was generated by men through their work, through their investment.
That's
It
still
means-
true.
And in this period, half the marriages disintegrate for 53%. That's the divorce rate. It means that half the wealth created during this, 45% of the wealth created during this period changed hands.
Right.
Changed hands. The economy of the United States alone grew, went up from 6 trillion to 15 trillion dollars. In other words, in this period that I'm talking about, $9 trillion were created as wealth, and of this, 90% was created by men.
Right.
So $8 trillion.
Yeah.
And then they divorced, half of them divorced. So that would make $4 trillion, and shared the property. That would make $2 trillion. $2 trillion changed hands, moved from men to women. Mind you, single women,
Yeah.
no longer attached to any men.
Yeah.
Suddenly, there was a whole class of single women with money, wealth,
Yeah, look how that turned out, eh?
sometimes serious money. And that, of course, followed the money. That changed the equation completely.
Right.
Women became truly independent. First of all, they could find jobs, they had money. I mean, that changed the picture. It is true that when a man and woman live together, they are much richer than when they live apart.
Sure.
But it's optical wealth, because the wealth is controlled usually by the men.
Yeah.
When they separate, the woman is much poorer, but it's all her money.
Yeah.
So this was the first shift in the power matrix.
Okay, let's stop it there. We got 5 minutes left. This is a part I can kind of agree a lot with him. He's not wrong with the statistics as far as I understand, and it really hasn't changed much. It is a huge divorce was one of the biggest transfers of wealth. One of the things he does say is that he kind of makes a sweeping claim that this is just a fact. When people get divorced, men give their half of everything they've got to the woman, and they get their properties too. But that's actually only kind of objectively true in the West, where state laws allow it to happen.
Right.
You,
Okay, so let's break it down. Let's break it down where he's getting at. Okay, first of all, he's making it sound like this is all organic.
yes.
Like this is all it's this is all normal. It's just part of the progression of a society.
Yeah. Right.
This is just people. This is free interaction. It's women are just divorcing because they can.
yes,
right?
Yes.
Because it's nothing. It's her. This is her own, under her own volition. She's getting a divorce. Okay. It has nothing to do with the media. It has nothing to do with the government.
Or
It has nothing
laws.
to do with immigration. It has nothing to do with the lack of external threats. It's just a natural progression we have that's taking place, and
well-
you should just accept it for what it is.
And he also blamed it on world wars, and saying women were sick of it. But besides that, he was kind of saying, well, women had a taste of freedom, right? They had a taste of freedom, and they lost it, and so they just naturally rebelled against men.
Okay.
But he
Now wait.
Uh-huh.
Now what you just said right there. He's talking about my grandparents' generation. My grandparents are still together
Yeah.
for 70 years.
Yeah.
They didn't divorce. You're talking about baby boomers who were born after World War II. So they had no idea what it was like working in a factory in 1944. Now,
No.
did they?
No, they did not.
Okay. So he skips right over that, and this is the women got a taste of the good life. Those women didn't get divorces. My grandparents stayed together.
Yes.
My grandparents were together, even though they worked in the factories or whatever. That's a fallacy. That's an intergenerational problem. The baby boomers, the hippie love. My mom, who was at Woodstock, she was there. She's now 68, 69 years old. She's divorced. She was part of the hippie culture, not her mother. Okay, so he's got my mother didn't get a taste of the good life in 1944 because my mother was not alive. Okay. Now, my grandparents obviously stayed together. They did not go out and fuck everything in 1969 and pop LSD, which is MK Ultra, which is social engineering. He doesn't want to acknowledge the social engineering part, and I'm very disappointed in Vaknin not to touch that third rail, and for good reasons. He does not want to touch that third rail because he'll lose his street cred with mainstream media, with high accolade, academia, and perhaps he may even lose his job. Where a lot of intellectuals who start going down that path, touching these third rails, lose their
notoriety,
their tenure.
Yeah,
No, they lose their tenure in universities, as most of the people that fall under like Andy Nowicki, E. Michael Jones, anybody part of the T. Kelly 67 channel.
Yeah. No, absolutely. I just wanted to finish up that part by saying it's very, very different when it comes to the distribution of wealth through divorce all over the world. It's different in different cultures, and I'll tell you, you'll be hard pressed to find a culture where the distribution of wealth is unanimously and objectively men throwing half of what they get own to women, unless it is somehow legislated by some kind of state law or some kind of deep cultural or religious belief.
Right, so he's not acknowledging the state aspect of things. Where did that come from?
Yes.
Okay, he doesn't want to talk about who started writing these laws. Where did no-fault divorce come from? Who was in control of Ms. Magazine? Where did Gloria Steinem come from? Where did all these things originate from? He doesn't want to discuss that stuff. He wants to glance over it or not discuss it at all, which is quite blue-pilled.
Yes, very, very blue-pilled. Let me just quickly go through some of the comments. Mr. Leduc says he's a Jew. Yes, he is. Mr. Leduc, he's projecting while pre-seed seeps from his Jap's eye. The fuck? Mr. Leduc, I am your mods kept banning me last time. Okay, well, if they banned you, hopefully it wasn't done. It wasn't done on misunderstanding. Hopefully there was a good reason for them to do it. If they banned you for a good reason, just don't do that again. You should be fine.
Him being a Jew, as far as I'm concerned, if you actually know Sam's work, it's completely irrelevant because he lets his own kind have it. And there's a lot of interviews where he discusses a lot of issues with Judaism. He discusses Israel's problems quite often. So don't let that be a determining factor.
Yeah, he's very self-aware as a Jew, I've noticed. Like, he's not. So, okay, well, let's continue. Death the Kid 24 is in. Good to see you, buddy, Mr. Leduc. All right, let's move along, gentlemen. Oops, I got to share the screen. Give me a break. All right, here we go.
The second shift in the power matrix was the fact that we moved from muscle back to brain. Mm-hmm. Because you see, women are more intelligent than men.
Oh, here we go.
Score higher. Mm-hmm. Women are the majority of college graduates in the West, not men. Mm-hmm. Majority of college graduates are women. Mm-hmm. In some professions, overwhelming majority of graduates. The highest paying professions, advocates.
Look at him wink and nod.
And so on. And,
and that guy doesn't understand what the hell he's talking
women
about.
Are much more social than men. Men are much more individualistic and so on. We have shifted to an environment that requires intelligence, education, social skills.
Yeah.
It's a networked environment.
Yeah.
Women have natural advantage there.
Yeah.
Absolute natural advantage. And indeed, they're taking over. Feminists like to say, well, there's no equal pay for equal time, this is nonsense. If you look at the picture objectively, of course, every takeover, every transition, every fundamental change like this takes decades, sometimes centuries. I'm not saying. Of course, we are still at the beginning of this process.
Yeah.
But it's an absolutely clear process.
Yes.
Inexorable, inevitable.
Yeah.
In no more than 50 years, 50, women will be utterly dominant as men used to be for 10,000 years, for 5,000 years. We are switching from patriarchy to matriarchy.
Right.
Okay, so which is it, Vaknin? You're being contradictory here. Was patriarchy a blip on the history map, or was it 5,000 years of male domination patriarchy, and now we're switching to power? Okay,
Or are we being equals again?
Yeah, the guy's going all schizophrenic here, man. Can't make up his bloody mind. Like, look, he obviously doesn't agree with the wage gap by what he's saying, but the concept that women are more intelligent than men, that doesn't.
Yeah, look, hey, Sam, you're living proof. You're living fucking proof, dude. Are you kidding me right now? You have an IQ of 187. Can you please show me another woman on your level that can have this conversation with you without going into some type of temper tantrum and trying to block you now and destroy your YouTube channel? Give me a fucking break, man.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I just put a link in the low bar for the viewers for an article called IQ Comparison Site .com, Sex Differences in IQ. There's been tons of studies between sex differences of IQ. Recent studies, actually.
It's been debunked.
It's been debunked. One of the reasons he goes, women are just smarter. They're smarter than men. There's more women.
Memorizing shit.
No.
Can a woman write articles that you write, Sam? Can they? No, they can't.
Well, not only that, but one of the reasons he gives right after is there's more women going to college. Of course there's more women going to college. It's completely become a neo-Marxist indoctrination, post-secondary education. And it's already been proven that schools are set up, and they have been set up since the state got more power in public education. They've been more geared towards women. Boys are failing in school because the education system is failing them. That is not a correlation of intelligence. None whatsoever. In fact, based on the standard today, not only in post-secondary, but I'm talking K through K-12 to post-secondary. Based on the modern standard, I'd say the fact that more women are doing better in K-12, even into post-secondary, is proof or very good evidence that women are stupider than men. Because all they're doing...
Common Core. Yeah, things like Common Core. Then you have obviously the disparity in male to female teachers. I mean, I barely had any male teachers. I mean, one out of maybe 9 or 10 was a male teacher I had through K through 12.
Yes. Oh, let me read a little bit from this page here. It's got a couple of the charts you can see. It says here, note that due to the seemingly unimportant, slightly higher male average IQ, the extra male variability does not mean that there are many more mentally deficient males. Instead, the areas under the curve show that at the high extreme, such as the Mensa or gifted cutoff of 130, indicated by the red arrow, you guys can see this on the link, and above, there are significantly more males than females who qualify. Okay. The distribution of intelligence across the population that has been studied basically says this. Women tend to group into the middle, the average intelligence, more than men, where men's more spread out. But the overall intelligence rating is much higher for men. Much, much higher.
Well, in response to the last comment in regards to Albanian sworn virgin, this phenomenon is still present. Again, I have 2 Albanian co-workers, off the boat Albanians. They just laugh at it. They say no. So I'm going to go with what my co-workers say who have dual citizenship and plots of land in Albania, in northern Albania. So I'll double check with them. I'm going to revisit the topic with my co-workers, but they both of them laughed at it. So.
Okay. Well, just going back to that study, the conclusion of the study says male and female mean IQs are about equal below the age of 15. I can attest to this as a former teacher. But males have a higher mean IQ from age 15 on. The effect of sex difference in IQ is largest at the high extreme of intelligence. Since many of the more prestigious roles in society are associated with high IQ, the lack of female representation in those roles may be partially due to fewer females being competitive at the highest levels. This does not mean that females should not be given equal opportunity, of course, to demonstrate their abilities, as this would create and worsened artificial glass ceiling. Okay, artificial glass ceiling. I mean, these are differences between the sexes in intelligence. Let's just face it.
And you can see that the interviewer, Grannon, he's starting to question back him a little bit.
You can see the look on his face when he says that. He's kind of just like, what the fuck are you talking about, man?
Right.
You're losing it, buddy. All right, let's continue. We're almost finished this one here.
Already, 1/3 of all breadwinners in the United States are women. Already 40% of all children are raised by single mothers.
Mm-hmm. And that's a fucking horrible thing.
And in some
Look at his
professions,
face.
like law, medicine, and so on, women are the majority. And most importantly, most college graduates are women. Today, without college education, you're dead.
Again, he's not wrong. There's a rise in single motherhood, which correlates with complete degeneracy of children in their education, in their lifestyles, in their habits, in their delinquency. There is a very strong positive correlation between single motherhood and child delinquency. Huge, huge. It's out of control and nobody talks about it. He's not wrong about the numbers. He's not wrong about female graduates. Yes, more and more women are coming out of post-secondary education with a gender study degree. Very.
And to add to his point in regards to not having a college degree, you're going to see after the baby boomers pass away, the whole college industrial complex is going to come to a complete grinding halt.
Yes.
And the only way they're able to keep their numbers up is by bringing in more foreigners.
Yes.
Okay? That's the only way, because once the baby boomers are dead, that whole wealth, the wealth is gone. The loans, college loans are going to dry up.
Yes.
And because of the millennial generation shell-shocked by the concept of student debt and unable to file bankruptcy from it, and obviously having to pay off this student loan for the next 10, 15, 20 years, even and more for some, the next generation is just going to scoff at this.
Yes. Well, you know, the post-secondary education system is pumping out basically unproductive, brainwashed ideologues. And 60% of them are women. They're a pariah on any productive society. The people that are getting pumped out of these, and this is not an accident. This is social engineering at its fucking finest.
We'll get more into the social engineering, and again, women are going to get degrees in what? Sociology, human resources,
unproductive
women's studies, unproductive communications, bullshit degrees.
Nothing that's going to increase the GDP of our countries. Nothing that's going to increase the economy, the culture, and the wealth of the countries we live in.
Putting a sticker on a ladder saying "Do not go past this step" is not a form of contributing to the GDP. That's not. No. You're not helping anybody by putting that sticker on the ladder. I'm sorry, it's not happening.
Absolutely. So I think you're right in saying that in the end, when the boomers are dead, what's going to happen is these post-secondary institutions are going to start drying up. The money's going to start drying up, and more people, I believe, especially the males, the male population is going to stop going altogether. And of course, according to Sam, this is somehow evidence that women are smarter than men, and they're going to take over the future. But
are they going into STEM? Are they going to STEM research?
They're not.
Are they doing engineering, building bridges? No, they're not.
When they do, they fall down and kill people. That's
like they did in Florida. Yes.
Exactly.
You know, my friend graduated honors from Virginia Tech, and we went fishing, and I was it was going back maybe 5-6 years ago, and I was contemplating going back to university. Should I go and study this field, so on and so forth? And he told me, he goes, look, Lamprey Milt, he goes, if you're not going to study engineering, or you're not going to be a doctor or a scientist, there's absolutely no point in this day and age for you to go and put yourself into debt for some bullshit piece of paper. Everything else that you can do, you can just learn by getting a job.
Yeah, or learn a trade.
Learning a trade, right?
Yeah, go to a
Which
trade
women
school.
don't want to do.
No, women don't want to do that, and I think that's going to be what's going to happen. Is you're going to see an uptick in students joining trade schools and getting educated in the trade, because it doesn't cost as much. There's a better potential for a profit to pay back any loans you've made. And I think that's what's going to happen. I hope it happens. I want to see these neo-Marxist institutions burn to the ground, and I want to see all their neo-Marxist feminist students burn with them. Anyway, are we still...
Modern day book burning
Yeah.
on how to be a sustainable progressive sipping a latte in downtown Manhattan.
All right, let's keep going here.
Find and consign to the lowest ranks of society. And majority, sometimes overwhelming majority, are women. They graduate. Men are very good in solitary, individualistic tasks. They are not good team players. They don't collaborate well. Their narcissism is much higher.
Yeah.
What? What?
Finish it. Let's just finish this part one,
Okay,
and then
but
we'll get.
I need to remember what he said there, is that women are team players. Are you fucking kidding me?
It's a joke. Can they unionize, Sam? Why do the capitalists love women so much? Why do they love women in the workforce? Because their inability to work together. Because if women work together, they'll realize that they're getting screwed out of a decent wage in their health care. But they don't do that. Now, do they? They don't know how to work together. They become catty. They start bitching and moaning. They file lawsuits.
Has this man ever been in a room full of women trying to work together? Ever? Holy shit.
She looks prettier than me. Look at her high heels. He talked to her. I can't believe this. That's what it's like being in an office full of women.
Holy Christ, man! Where is he pulling this out of? Is there like some feminist professor off camera, like taking notes and staring at him?
Maybe they got a buzzer on him, shocking him every time he goes off.
Jesus Christ! All right, let's keep going here.
And so they would be excellent programmers, coders, or but they are not really built for the brave new world that's coming.
Right.
Not really. Indeed, when you take a look at statistics,
Yes,
statistics
you should.
say that about new statistics, by the way, just released. About 40-something% of narcissists are women, and 55% or so are men. And I believe that's an artifact. I believe it's because I believe it's probably equal, if not. Okay, let's assume 45-55. You would have expected in support groups for narcissists, for victims of abuse, you would have expected the same division. You would have expected 55% women and 45% men.
Yeah.
The mirror image.
Yes.
No. Vast majority of narcissistic abuse victim groups are composed of women.
Yeah.
Between 80 and 90. Women are much better at networking, interacting, obtaining resources, like support. Support is a resource.
Yeah.
And so men suffer alone. Consequently, they are much more depressed. They are dysfunctional.
Much more likely to
Substance
commit suicide.
abuse.
Yeah.
Sorry?
Suicide is a problem.
Suicide, substance abuse, etc., etc. So, if you don't know to obtain resources, including social support, you're doomed in this world. You're doomed. I think within very few decades, we're going to see a matriarchal. No, men realize that. Of course they realize it. Women take their jobs. Women are much better at networking. They sit in a class in college. Everyone is a woman. I mean, they feel besieged. They feel besieged. So we have new movements. Incels, men go their own way, red pillars. We have new movements. Rebellion against matriarchy. Looming, impending matriarchy.
Okay.
These groups are right.
Oh shit!
They are not wrong. Everyone says they're wrong. They're idiots. They're retards. No. They identify the coming revolution. They are right about it 100%. It's like the aristocracy in Russia in 1913 predicting that communism is coming and trying to assassinate Lenin.
Yeah.
Yes, it's true.
Yeah.
Women are coming.
Right.
And women are going to dominate. And you're going to be the slaves of women, as women have been your slaves.
Right.
They're absolutely right about their prognosis. Absolutely.
It won't happen to me.
Sorry?
It can't happen to me.
That you'll be slave of a woman.
Yes, no, I will have a harem of several women. They'll all be mind-controlled slaves.
You'll have a harem, you'll have to make money to support it.
That's true.
Slave.
Well, that's the end of the first episode. It's few. You know, when he talks about MGTOW, he's right. Oh, let me stop sharing the screen for a minute here. When he talks about MGTOW and these different groups, red pill groups, incels and stuff, it is, again, he's right. He's correct. It's a reaction. It's not a reaction to fear of a matriarchal society. Not at all. It's a reaction to. It's not a reaction to what's coming. It's a reaction to what's happening. And what's happening?
It's a safety valve. MGTOW is, I find, to be somewhat of a safety valve, where the steam's got to be let out somewhere, and the steam that gets let out is men such as myself and Ayam. Now, for example, I don't want my money going to single moms because I know my money going to single moms is fueling the problem. I know if the best thing to do is to disengage from this to protect myself because it's about self-preservation. So if this problem that he's putting forward, that the matriarchy is coming for you, well, the best thing for you to do is to go your own way.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. And he does say that he says they're not wrong about what's happening, but I don't think if you talk to 100 MGTOW men randomly, I think very few of them would bring up this concept of some kind of matriarchal takeover, because first of all, most red pill men understand what that actually means. I mean, most red pill men know that the patriarchy doesn't represent a feminist boogeyman that's dominated the world. And again, go back to the video, Vaknin contradicts himself. First he says the patriarchy, it was a blip. Then he says it dominated for 5,000 years. Like he can't even maintain his train of thought there. If you want to call it an argument, he can't maintain his argument there. So most MGTOW men are not going to say that because they understand what these words mean. There's no threat of some boogeyman matriarchy compared to the boogeyman patriarchy. That's all bullshit. The reaction is what's happening now, today. And obviously, a lot of the points he talks about with women dominating education, women usurping the wealth of men, all of this stuff was done through legal moves through the state, floated on culture.
Right.
Let me see who's talking here. Mekong Farong. The entire purpose of female liberation and public education was to have the state raise the children. Absolutely. I wouldn't say that's the whole purpose, but it was a big part of it. Absolutely. Females in the workforce equals more taxpayers equals bigger government equals state controlling every aspect. Yes, absolutely. I mean, we've talked
all right, but
about
the society's in debt. There's a global debt bubble that is so massive that's been brought on by women being involved in shit they shouldn't be in.
Yeah.
He doesn't want to talk about that either. Again, I discussed HR department. Women that are studying climate change, the effects of climate change, that working for some fucking NGO subsidized off the UN. The 2008 the 2008 crash. It never disappeared. The crash from 2008 to now. It's the same thing all over again. You didn't correct the problem, and what's different between 2008 and 2018 is more and more women are flooding the job market, taking up bogus positions.
Yes, and taking away, dipping into the salary pool and taking it away from men that are actually doing jobs that contribute to society.
Right. I deal with female real estate agents, and my father he's a real estate agent, and I asked him there's all women that do this for a job. He says they're all fucking lazy because being a real estate agent is so fucking lazy. You just collect a paycheck. All you got to do is show a house. You don't even have to know anything about the house. Just be there to sell the house and collect your 1.5%, 2% commission off the selling of the property.
Yeah.
Right. So then the real estate agents come to me asking for information on properties. I'm like, you're supposed to know this already. Don't come looking at me, You're the one making the money off this, the selling of this property, and you want me to give you information for the property, and I'm not getting fucking paid for it. I hang up the phone on them. What do you need? When was the house built? Bleep. I just hang up the phone on them. That's stuff you're supposed to know already. Don't come asking me for the information. It's
Right.
bullshit.
Yeah,
Where's
right.
my cut? Give me $500 underneath the table. I'll tell you everything you need to know about the property. Excuse me, but this is Brittany, blah, blah, blah. I'd like to know about if this house is... Nope, hang up.
Do your own
Bye.
research, bitch.
Do your own research.
Earn your
Buy me a
fucking
coffee.
paycheck. Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh,
you have no idea how much they bribe me all the time trying to get information. It's hysterical. It's hysterical. And they just call me over and over. And it's single moms. It's a part-time job. And then when you try calling them back, they're nowhere to be found because they're gossiping with their mother. They're not doing their job. They're not doing their fucking jobs.
Yeah. Zen Maintenance, unpacking videos like this and being correct explains why I never get invited to potlucks. Mr. Leduc, this is what my comment was related to earlier. And he's talking about Vaknin. His wife, Miss Cohen, dominates him. That's what I said. He sounds a bit like a bit of a cuck. It's either that or he does seem kind of like a beat down male to a certain degree. Like
I don't think he really cares about sex. Honestly, he doesn't really, he doesn't discuss his own personal life.
Well, he did in this video. He did here. Remember, he was saying like, "Oh, the women, even after the pill, women, even before the pill, women fucked whoever they wanted, and they would just have an abortion." He's like, "Even chastity belts," and he goes, "I know from personal experience."
You guys have to put this into perspective. This guy is a narcissist himself. He has a hard time interacting with people. As you can see, he presents himself as this end all to be all guru. Ask him anything, he has an answer for. He was wrong about Trump. If you go back into 3 years ago in regards to the election in the United States,
What did he
was
say?
completely fucking wrong. Oh, he's Hillary. Hillary will win. Don't even question it. Trump is a joke. And that's very typical of Europeans.
Yeah.
Europeans think they know everything about America. Americans are stupid. Vaknin hates Americans.
Yeah.
He truly does not like Americans, and he thinks they're all stupid. He thinks they're unintelligent. He says that the only people that are intelligent live in the Northeast, and so on and so forth. So, again, the guy isn't always right. He was wrong about the Chinese economy. I actually sent his work on the Chinese economy to the Brooklyn Monk, and the Brooklyn Monk's response to me was like, "Who the fuck is this guy that wrote this?" And I'm like, "No, what's wrong with it?" He goes, "This guy's completely wrong." So,
Yeah. Well, Mr. Leduc says, if this bloke and his hypothesis is correct, what many describe as white genocide is going to become a reality very soon, because the emancipation of women is literally leading to a low fertility rates. Of course it is.
well, he gets that in. He gets into that in the second part. So why don't we spark up the second half?
We should probably save it, man. It's 9:45.
What are we at? 2 hours?
We're at 2 hours and 15 minutes. We should probably go for 15 more minutes because I got to start my classes again tomorrow. Next Sunday I can do a bit later.
Why don't we end it there, and we'll take the second part up next week.
Yeah, we'll do a part 2 to it. That's what we'll do. So yeah, that was the first video. I've put links to both episodes in the low bar if you guys want to take a look at yourself. And we'll come back next time and we'll go over part 2. I'll have a little bit more time. Please no more Vaknin next week. We're gonna do a part 2. Maybe we'll break it up and we won't do it the very next week, but we will bring a part 2 in to get it, because you got to remember he gets more into MGTOW, some more MGTOW talking points. He drops the name a little bit more. He kind of scoffs at it and he says a few things, but we'll do another one.
The part 2 is better than the part 1. So
yeah, the part 2 is better than the part 1. Also, I mentioned this last week, and I have made contact with Red Pill Philosophy, or originally we were going to do him this week, but I asked him to postpone to next week. So we might have him on next week, but I can't guarantee it because I haven't got a confirmation for next week from him yet. Hopefully he comes on. He's got a pretty popular channel, so we'll hopefully get him on. And also, Messenger's been bugging me to come on again, so we might get him on again in the next couple weeks here.
Well, maybe we'll do a midday because I'm off this week, so we'll do a Turkey Day special with Messenger.
Yeah, we could do a Turkey Day special, for sure. We our Turkey Day's done here in Canada. We did ours in October. So, but we can do.
All right, very well.
Okay, so anyway, guys, is there anything else you want to touch on before we head out?
No, we'll pick this up sometime in the near future. But definitely, if you guys want to get a little prelude into part 2, go ahead and watch the interview with Richard Grannon. The future is female. Part 2. It's good. It's good stuff.
Right. Okay. What's this? Messenger don't cancel. No, we'll get Messenger on again. Don't worry. We'll organize something this week. I'm pretty busy this week, but I can squeeze in some time middle of the week if we have to, and I'll have a lot more time after this week. So, anyway, thanks for watching, guys. Appreciate you stopping in. Please like, share, subscribe. Definitely share it with your friends. And yeah, if anybody's got ideas for guests, don't be afraid to drop those in the comments either. I'm always looking for people to talk to. So. All right. Take care, everybody, and we'll see you again soon.